Guys, 850 horsepower. Just let that number sink in for a second. It's a massive earth shaking number, I know. And it's actually the kind of power that Shelby just delivered the new Shelby with the Super Snake R. Guys, that's the kind of number that have everybody thinking that this new Shelby might be the king of all Mustangs and the fastest Mustang around the racetrack. But here's a statement that might sound just like a little bit heresy. It's not enough. Because while Shelby was busy cranking up the power on the Shelby Super Snake, or the Shelby Super Snake R, the Mustang Ford Performance, which is another division or another group in Ford, they were busy delivering a wing, suspension, a whole new body. Essentially, guys, a whole new philosophy on a car that they delivered on the new Mustang GTD. And that is exactly why the most powerful offering for Mustang or for Ford will still get walked on a racetrack any day by the Mustang GTD. Today we're gonna get into the real weeds of it, guys. We're gonna get into more than just a spec sheet. We're gonna get into the spec sheets a little bit, but we're gonna dig into the numbers and we're gonna go into the engineering that proves why the ultimate track performance is a little bit more than a numbers game, and why 815 horsepower Mustang GTD is an undisputed king around the racetrack. So on one side of the ring, you got the 2026 Shelby Super Snake, right? Yeah, this one is a heavyweight champion when it comes to horsepower, right? It's an evolution of the Mustang dark horse. So pretty much it's a dark horse, your neighbor's Mustang. And in classic Shelby style, they crank it up to what was it? They put that 3-liter Whipple supercharger on there and crank it all the way up to 850 horsepower. Like, I mean, that's classic. That's classic Shelby. You know, they make big power. I know it doesn't sound like much today, but guys, 850 is a lot of power. I mean, if you stop comparing it with like the Corvette and 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 things like the Demon and stuff like that, it's a lot of power. 850 is always going to be a lot of power. And then it features obviously a wider suspension. I'm sorry, wider body and adjustable coilover suspension. Now, coilover suspension is nice, and it's very loud and aggressive, so it embodies the pure Shelby ethos. But here's the thing: it's like Mustang took that dial, cranked it up to 11, and kept cranking it up to the snap right off. Because essentially what they did was they hand the Mustang Dark Horse the tools to handle itself on a racetrack. And then they even give you a manual, guys. That's probably the best thing Shelby did for us. Thank you, Shelby. But essentially, it's a guys. What it is, it's a car that's meant to leave your bystander in the back watching the black lines that you painted on the pavement. But on the other corner, you have something entirely different. The Mustang GTD is not a Mustang. It's not a tuned Mustang. I've said this in my last video, guys. I mean, I'll click it. You can go rewatch it again. But the middle of the car is the same as a Mustang, and then everything else on that car is unique to that car. And so it's pretty much from the ground up a built race car that's just a reimagination of what Mustangs can be. So essentially a moonshot project, right? The car was built with one single obsessive purpose in mind, which I spoke about in my last video also. I wanted to beat the European cars on their own turf, beat the Europeans at their own game. And so they took a Mustang GT3 car, which is pretty much it's a race car, not pretty much the Mustang GT3 race car, and then they fit F1 technology on there, that stuff that you can't even use in GT3 racing, like the wing, for example, in the DRS, right? And then they they stuck the Predator engine on there. So again, not using the Coyote engine because that's your neighbor's engine. They use a Predator engine, right? And they cranked it up to like 815 horsepower. So it's not the horsepower king in this, but honestly, it's just a footnote in the real story because the real story here is the technology that's wrapped around that power. Mustang GTD is just not a car. Ford Performance is making a statement. It's not about being the most powerful, just the fastest around the track. All right, guys. So here's a tale of the tape. When it comes down to horsepower, the Mustang Super Snake, 850 horsepower. The GTD clocks in a certified 815 horsepower. Definitely point for Shelby. Despite the engine, it's a point for the Chevy. Now, Super Snake gives you a choice in transmission, however. Super Snake gives you a choice between the purest manual transmission, which we love to see. I really do thank Shelby for bringing that back, and a 10-speed automatic, right? However, the GTD has just one option and one option only. It's a lightning fast, rear mounted dual clutch transmission. Dual clutch, it's minded with transaxle. We call that a draw, but it depends on who you are. If you want that purist feel, it's another point for the Shelby. And honestly, guys, if you just want the lighter, fastest, everybody knows dual clutch is the fastest. Definitely a point for the Mustang GTD. I'll let you pick that point. Now, width wise, the Super Snake has a proper wide body. It it took a Mustang Dark Horse and it made itself like 2 inches wider, which is huge. That wide body is nice looking too. But guys, the Mustang GTD is 82 inches wide. Just guys, that's about 4 inches wider than the Super Snake. Oh, I'm sorry, another 2 inches wider than the Super Snake. So, and honestly, this wasn't just a style choice either. They needed that width for its immense cornering ability and stability on sweeping corners. So, guys, I think that's a point for the GTD. So we got 1 to 2, or depends on who you talk to, maybe. But weight wise, here's where another one I can't really help you decide on, because Ford is being real tight-lipped with the weight on the Mustang GTD. Now, I saw EPA numbers saying that the Mustang GTD is 4343, and we know the Mustang Super Snake is 4,004 pounds. However, nothing official on the Mustang GTD yet. It could be lighter than that. It could be the 4343. Who knows? I have no problem giving that point to the Shelby Super Snake if that's the one we know. And at least the EPA number suggests it might be heavier for the GTD. So I give that one to Super Snake. But price definitely went to Super Snake. That Super Snake comes in at a staggering 225. I feel like that's too expensive for the car. However, I am on record defending the 300 price tag for the Mustang GTD, as I do believe that the Mustang GTD could command that kind of price. However, I think it's a little bit too expensive. $100,000 less is still too expensive for the Mustang Super Snake. However, it's definitely a win for the Super Snake in this segment. So that's another point for the Chevy Super Snake. So if you just glance at the stats, guys, you'll be forgiven for thinking the Super Snake is a clear winner. And is an obvious choice because more powerful and a whole lot cheaper, so you get more price. Performance per price. But the spec sheet is not gonna, those numbers on the spec sheet is not gonna help you navigate down a chicane or a tricky downhill corner or anything like that. So In this video, we want to go through more than just the brochure or the options list and show you why what makes these cars tick. So, by the way, guys, if you're enjoying the look into what really makes these cars tick and want more content that goes beyond the spec sheet and beyond the little brochure from the dealership, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and let us know that you're enjoying content like this. We always exploring the why behind things, guys, and it's what makes cars truly great. So, guys, this is where the $100,000 price gap in the Mustang GTD start making a whole lot of sense. Correct? Because this race isn't one with horsepower; it's one with physics. Why cars like the Porsche GT3 RS could do the things it do. And the GTD is another masterclass in bending physics to its will. So in this video, I like to break it down into three sections: aerodynamics, suspension, and balance. So we already got the horsepower thing out of the way. Mustang Super Snake got more. But first up, aerodynamics. Aerodynamics on the Super Snake is real. It has a functional aero kit with the front splitter, and it has a huge rear wing. So, guys, that absolutely creates downforce. I'm not gonna take anything away from the Super Snake, but the GTD, guys, is playing a completely different game altogether. Not only is the wing bigger, it creates so much downforce. It had to be mounted to the frame of the car, and then it doesn't just have that big wing. It's also a DRS, a drag reduction system that allows it to lower the drag on straights, which is what helps the Mustang achieve its top speed on a straightaway because the wing flatten out and then the wind just go straight over the vehicle in more of a smooth fashion. It's never gonna be fully smooth. Never gonna be a Prius, but it'll be smoother than the massive downforce it creates with that wing. And then, as soon as you breathe on the brake pedal, guys, that wing flat back into high downforce mode, gluing the car back to the track. And it's pretty much acting like an air brake, right? And essentially, it helps your car slow down a lot quicker. Now, because this car is constantly trimming and balancing our aero, it makes it a little bit faster. Now, the Super Snake have to push through all that air, while the GTD is essentially commanding it and bending it. So maybe we start calling the Mustang GTD the last airbender. Now, second is the suspension. Again, the Super Snake has a serious setup. It has adjustable coilovers and has some beefy sway bars, right? And it's a huge upgrade from something like the Dark Horse, predictably. I'm not saying the Dark Horse has a bad suspension setup. Super Snake is just better, right? But again, guys, GTD is on a whole nother level. It's something you'll expect to find out of a purpose-built race car, not a production car. At least not one costing anything less than a couple million, honestly. Because what the Ford Mustang is using, it's 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 what is it, the semi-active dampers with multi max while adaptive spool valve dampers. Guys, it's a lot. It can't even come out my mouth properly because it's a lot. But pretty much what Ford did was rip the trunk out of the Ford Mustang GTD altogether, and they they added the push rod style suspension, so you can actually see through a window in the car in the back of it. You can see the suspension going to work in there. It's cool to watch. I've seen videos of it. It's really cool to watch. And what essentially what I do is move the heavy dampers off of the wheels, guys, and moving it to the middle of the car. So the wheels are lightweight, and that removes a lot of unsprung weight. Why do you want to move a lot of unsprung weight? That essentially let the wheels move faster and react a lot quicker to bumps, keeping it glued to the ground because we all know main part of going fast is sticking to the ground and always being able to maintain contact with the ground. So that further helps boost. Uh, One more thing I like to add too. When you put the Mustang GTD in track mode, it lowers by 44 millimeters, which guys, you all know that's like an inch and a half almost. Um, so that helps lower the center of gravity even more, reduce the drag because it's a lot less drag, a lot less car, and that further boosts the grip and have that car go down the track a lot faster. Now the third thing, guys, balance. Now, balance might be the most important part of this equation. Maybe arrow. It depends on who you're talking to. But essentially, guys, um, the Mustang Super Snake is using a traditional muscle car layout. Engine up front, and the transmission is bolted right to it. And you have the drive shaft going out back, and it's a proven design. Mustang's been using it for years. However, the GTD just shattered that tradition because to chase the holy grail of perfect 50-50 weight balance, which if it's not 50-50, it's probably rear bias, honestly, because while the engine sits up front, it's connected to a gearbox out back, creating a transaxle. So the engine stays up front, but it's connected to the transmission out back by a carbon fiber drive shaft. Why carbon fiber? Because lightweight, it's stiff, it's good. And so this radical change perfectly balances the car weight. And why does any of that matter? Because guys, if you ever know anything about going around the corner, you want perfect balance to affect, when you to remain stable mid-turn. And honestly, you want the weight on your rear wheels when it's time to power out of a corner so you don't have oversteer. And you could take advantage of all 815 horsepower in the case of the GTD. Whereas the Super Snake will be struggling to put its power down on exits because it's not set up really for track use as effectively. So this let GTD users confidently exploit all 815 of its power in ways that Super Snake drivers just wouldn't be able to. So guys, let's put that to the test on a racetrack. Now, we all know I like the Nürburgring, but for the interest of time in this video, I'm gonna use something a lot shorter because we did a Nürburgring video before and it turned out to be a long video. But let's do something well, we are familiar with, like Road Atlanta, right? Okay, so coming down that first straight, you know, both of them got V8s, but that 35 extra horsepower on the Mustang Super Snake, less drag. Now, the GTD is going to be using drag reduction, so probably be going by that track. Let's just give it a 2 car length lead, right? That's fair. So the Mustang Super Snake takes off with a 2 car length lead. But then when you get to turn one, guys, that fast sweeping right hander, GTD is gonna be able to brake later, and also too, it doesn't have to slow down as much because it doesn't need to go. Its average speed. It could maintain a higher speed in corners, doesn't slow down as much because it's wider. It has more grip, more downforce helping it, especially for that first turn. You have a lot of downforce helping you. So that gap the Super Snake just opened up in the straight, it's gone, guys. In fact, the GTD might probably be pulling away like by this point already. And through the technical eases, where yeah, the GTD just is simply on another lead. That push rod suspension will allow you to take advantage of every apex, every roll on, and honestly, guys, it'll carry way more speed through those corners. And I think this is where the biggest gap is gonna form. Actually, it's right there in those technical eases. while the Super Snake traditional setup will be fighting just to keep up on every change of direction. Like the GTD is just gonna bounce power a lot better. And on the back straight, it's a similar story. Well, it's a different story, not as a first straight. I think the GTD will still be carrying more speed because the driver of the GTD will be able to get on the power a lot earlier, essentially starting his acceleration sooner, which means by the time he gets on the straight, he had more speed. Now the Mustang Super Snake is gonna have more power, so it'll be catching up in speed, but it's not long enough straight to where it's gonna be able to match the kind of speeds the GTD user is gonna be having down that back straight. So the time gained, if it even gain any, I don't think it will gain any, honestly. But the time gained will be quickly lost again because, again, down that left turn and then the right turn, Mustang GTD doesn't have to slow down that much. On top of the fact that it's slowing down a lot faster to that point that it could take that turn. And then, honestly, guys, that the turn down to the finish line, the Super Snake just wouldn't be able to keep up with things like chicane. I mean, I think it will be it'll be a pretty drastic loss between the two cars. So the Super Snake win the drag races between the corners, just the drag races, but everywhere else on the track, on a real track where the lap times are truly shredded, and we talking about on the racetrack. This is where Ford is so confident, and that's what like look, Ford was so confident targeting that sub 7 second before they took it there. They knew they could exploit the car lack of needing to slow down and speed a lot more. And it places GTD firmly up there with supercars. I don't think the Super Snake is gonna be up there with the best of them. So guys, let's be crystal clear here. I'm not taking away from the Super Snake R. It's a phenomenal machine, guys, and it's an incredible piece of engineering. Mustang pushes to its absolute power limit, especially using the Coyote engine. Again, like I said, they didn't even use the Predator engine to do it. And so for $100,000 less than a GTD, it gives you more raw power and the driving experience that's just visceral and thrilling, in my opinion. And unapologetically, it's American, and it's not going after the German car. It has its place. Like I really do like the Super Snake also. But yeah, it's a muscle car philosophy. However, the Mustang GTD is not a muscle car. It's a supercar, guys. It's a supercar wearing Mustang badge. It's not a race car. Because that's essentially what it is. It's a no compromise race car built by a factory that wanted a race car for the road. So if you wanted a track day weapon, I'll say get the Super Snake. It is going to be a track day weapon. But if you wanted something like more surgical and something that's more precise and give you the trifecta we just talked about, perfect balance, trick suspension that you're not gonna get in any other car, and aero that you see in F1 or cars like the Mustang GT3 RS, get the Mustang GTD. So honestly, the Super Snake is gonna win it's gonna win the battle on the dyno sheet, right? It's definitely gonna have you put out more power, and without a doubt, if power is more important to you, the Super Snake is the better car. But what do you think, guys? The head and the wallet, honestly, is gonna tell me that the Mustang Super Snake is the car to buy, right? But the GTD is more sophisticated, and might the Super Snake raw power, which it is, and manual gearbox. If it was your money, what would you pick? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. Thank you.